Derryn Hinch, Protect That Child Project. Tell me about it.
Well, in Australia, I started a petition, and it was saying that we need a national public register of convicted sex offenders. And I did a thing called Jail to Justice Walk after I went to jail recently. And we've now got 140,000 names on that petition. And I knew that across the ditch here, you're doing a similar thing with the Sensible Sentencing Trust. And so I was happy to come and support them, because I think you shouldn't have foreigners come and lecture you, but I think you're making the same mistake here that we've made in Australia, that you should have a public register and we don't. And that both parties here, the major parties, the government that wants a good register, but they don't want it public. The opposition, the Labor Party, is even stronger on it. And I think you're making mistakes here, because a public register, they've had one in the United States for nearly 20 years. And to me, there's too much is put on the rights of the offender and not of the victim. And I'm surprised here that people keep saying to me, oh, but this register is here to protect the victim. It's not. It's here to protect the rehabilitation, supposedly, of the offender. And I think it's wrong.
What do you think of rehabilitation?
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Can't happen. You know.
Well, we're on the same page then.
Why
do they persist with it?
The test I do this, somebody said to me, oh, you don't believe in rehabilitation of sex offenders. I said, no, I don't. I said, okay, here's a test. Would you let a rehabilitated pedophile babysit your child? And the interviewer said, no, I wouldn't. I said, yeah, I rest my case. And the thing is, the victims need protection, neighbourhoods need protection. And in the United States, I've been to Florida, Texas, New York, I've done this. In New York, I stood in Times Square, took out my mobile phone, punched in an app, and it showed me, like if I'd punched in the word motel, it showed me where 20 predators lived. Shows their name, their photograph, their address. You know exactly where they are. Now, this has been out there for 20 years in the United States. You don't have vigilantes running around shooting everybody in the most gun-prone country in the world. So I think the vigilante argument is a furphy, and I think the idea that this register is there in secret to protect the victim is rubbish.
Yeah, but this, you can look up all these. You go to the app, look up all these pedophiles,
yep,
all these offenders. What about their privacy?
Yeah, big deal. You surrender your privacy the minute you touch a child. Yeah, your privacy. I don't give a damn about your privacy. I care about the privacy of the rights of people. The one I got 5 months of house arrest over naming 2 really bad serial sex offenders, and one of them had been out 3 months after he's released on bail, on parole rather. He's out there. And secrecy is their big weapon. So you don't know who they are, where they are. He befriends a young mother. She's got 2 young daughters. She's a single mum. She's there. He offers to cut the lawn. He offers to have a barbecue. And she's sick. I'll drive your kids to school. It's their way of action. And I think it's too much is put to their rehabilitation, which doesn't happen. And if you have a public register, it becomes Crime Stoppers. You know they're out there. And in Australia, many of them live in sort of villages outside. Run an Ararat in Victoria. In America, in Florida, I went to a caravan park where 110 sex offenders all lived after they'd been released from jail. That was a spooky thing, I tell you.
I bet it was. Were they restricted or?
No, they could go because they had to register. They had to report to the police once a month. There were signs outside saying restricted area, children not allowed. So everybody knew they lived there. People didn't go in and blow the place up. They just knew that's where they were. And I think part of it is that people feel frustrated. They think the system as it is now isn't working. So when you talk about vigilantes, they say, well, people will take the law into their own hands. Well, if the law is working properly, and it's not now, you wouldn't need to even consider that sort of thing. I mean, you look at now, if we've got a victim who's going to talk to us at a function on Sunday, she can't legally, she's a victim, she's in her 40s, she can't legally use her own name because she'd be in contempt of court. Now, this is mad. I mean, she is a victim. Now, I would do anything to protect victims in Australia, you can't name them, and so therefore I may not be able to name a father because that will identify a daughter. And that's the way it should be. Except when she wants to go public, she should be allowed to go public. All
right, the jail terms you serve for revealing names, would you or did you ever extend the name revelation to other crimes other than sexual crimes?
Well, the fact is, it doesn't matter, because if you commit murder, your name's never suppressed. If you're a tax avoider, your name's not suppressed. Sex offenders are the only ones who seem to have their names suppressed. Derryn Hinch doesn't get his name suppressed. So why is
I don't know what it's like in Australia now, but there is a lot of name suppression, at least initially here. When I say initially, I mean pre-trial.
Pre-trial?
Yes.
And there's no
charges laid, but until the trial, and even during the trial, until the judge releases them.
And this sometimes, and that is fair, sometimes that happens in South Australia, does the same thing. But you've got a case here now, I think it's in Bay of Plenty, where a man over an assault charge has had his name suppressed, no conviction, and he bashed the hell out of his son. That's a good case that I'm following up on at the moment.
All right. So if this was back in Australia, you were on a radio program still, because there's no one to let you back on now. If you were, would you blow that open?
I'd consider it. I mean, I don't want to go back to jail. I mean, the last one I was fined $100,000 and I did 50 days in jail, 2 weeks in solitary confinement this year. And I was in the same prison as two guys who were two of the worst rapists, murderers in Australia were on my same floor. The second jail they put me in, 93% of the other inmates were sex offenders. 93% of them. So it's not a fun place to be. But
Did they have their eyes on you?
You could say so. I'll tell you a quick story. I was down there in...
Hold it.
Take a break?
Take a break. I'll tell you what, during the break, we'll see if you can stay after 11 for a bit longer. The story.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was in the second jail and all the sex offenders were, and the worst ones were housed in the old farmhouse, two-storey farmhouse, where they mingled with us during the day, but they were taken back in there at night time to sleep. And one day I'm walking down by the creek, it's dusk, and I see a guy's come across the bridge from there, so I know he's one of the worst. And as he walked past me, he just stared straight through me, and you feel some of his eyes in your back, and you don't want to turn around. I did turn around, and he disappeared. So I continued, hidden in the trees. So I continued my walk, and as I came back, it was really dark by now, and I'm walking through the trees, and I see two guys in prison greens about 15 feet from me. I thought, well, just keep walking. As I did, out of the gloom, I hear this voice say, "Hey, Hinch, didn't your mother tell you not to walk alone in the park at night?" And I just felt cold, and I just kept walking.
Any good at defending yourself?
I think I could be. But in this case, I thought, gee, I could get a piece of wood, hit over the head with a piece of wood here. But the guards were pretty good for me. I must admit, they're pretty good.